Eula, our beautiful ice dancing queen, but now she also has another new title, being the forgotten character of Genshin Impact. Because if you guys didn't realize, the last time she had her rerun was all the way back in November 2021, and guys, that was like over a year and a half ago. Whereas most characters, the longest time they didn't have their rerun was basically around a year time, but for some reason Hoyoverse just didn't want to bring Eula back. Now guys, patch 3.8 is coming pretty soon, and I do have a feeling that Eula's going to be having her rerun in patch 3.8. Obviously there's no official confirmation in any way as of the moment I release this video, but either way, today's video guys, I kind of want to touch on talking about Eula a bit and see whether or not she's still a worth it character to pull for you guys, since I know that there are a lot of Eula's main out there, and there are also a lot of Eula fans who didn't have her on your account and was saving up for her. So it's going to be a pretty interesting discussion, and I also haven't talked about Eula in quite some time, so I would love to talk more about her. So stick with me till the rest of the video guys, as it's going to be a fun ride. First off, let's talk about Eula playstyle and some of her most important notes whenever you're using her. She's a hyper carry cryo claymore character guys that focuses on dealing physical damage. Now the fact that she's a cryo character really benefits her whenever it comes to physical, because of course it's a lot easier for her to trigger super conduct. Now when talking about a physical hyper carry, Eula is generally still the best physical hyper carry until now, which is, I'm not sure if you're surprised or not, but yes, Eula has been released very long ago. I'm actually kind of lost track when she was actually released. I think that was all the way back in like May 2021 or something, and that was like 2 years now, and we still don't have a better physical carry until now. So she is a hyper carry guys. The main role is definitely gonna be on field doing her normal attack, and yes, most of the time her gameplay style revolves around you, specifically focus on getting the right numbers of Grimheart stack, as it does allows Eula to apply physical and cryo resistance decrease onto her enemies, which is quite nice. But then the most important part of her kit is no doubt gonna be her burst, because I feel that many of the time whenever you're playing Eula, it's more about you focusing on hitting her burst more than you just focusing on her normal attack damage, because her burst is what made her shine as a physical hyper carry. It does an insanely high numbers of damage even when you are a free-to-play player with a C0 Eula. Not to mention it is an AoE burst, so it is very valuable when you're up against group of enemies. It also has a charging mechanic where basically after Eula uses her burst, she has a couple of seconds before the burst actually explode, and that's whenever your normal attack and E skill deal damage to your opponent, they will actually charge up into the burst damage stack. Each normal attack and E skill hit is considered to be 1 stack, and if you're looking at a level 8 talent on Eula, a damage per stack is basically a 128% bonus on top of a 627% base light sword damage, which is the reason why her burst hits very hard. So basically Eula playstyle revolves mostly around her burst, therefore she wants a lot of energy recharge on her side, as her DPS level does goes down very fast if you are waiting for her burst to recharge. Now looking back at Eula when she was released, she was a very good character in fact, and basically almost all of the meta team had her around that point, especially when you're going through the abyss. Most of the team really did have Eula as a member on the team, and I remember that many players actually did invested in her constellation, especially all the way up to C6, because that's when her burst deals incredibly high damage. But either way, even if you were a free-to-play player using a C0 Eula, her burst was also absolutely very valuable till back then too, due to her very high burst dealing damage with AoE damage as well. And considering most of the floor did have a lot of group enemy situation, Eula did very much felt like an AoE physical carry, because the damage was actually so good that every time her burst exploded, it basically wiped out most of the enemies on field, so it was very very valuable on many of the team. Not to mention she had really good looking attack animation, guys. It's like having her dancing on the battlefield. So that was a lot of Eula's main back then. But what about Eula in the current meta? Now in the current meta, guys, I really have to say that she did fell off, mainly due to an incredibly high number of meta characters being released since that time, especially in patch 3.0 where Dendro Reaction was released, buffing a lot of character, yet physical damage itself and physical character didn't really have any buff. There was basically absolutely no power enhancement. If you did remember, then there was Mika who was released that aimed to buff, you know, physical character, and yes, the number of physical damage he buffed is decently high. However, guys, he's not truly functional in a team unless you are at a C6 Mika. Plus, realistically speaking, due to the fact that he applies basically no cryo element for the team, and considering Eula is a character that requires a lot of energy regen on her part, Mika just doesn't work well with Eula, and it's very hard to keep up with just a combination of Mika and Eula on the team for cryo element, because even when you have him as a healer, he's still not even doing enough to help out the team. And so, which is why we almost never see Eula being used in Abyss nowadays. Of course, whenever she returns, for example, if she does return in patch 3.8, then I feel that the Abyss in patch 3.8 will be geared toward her a bit, but nonetheless, I feel that afterward it would just go back to how it usually is, because that's basically just the sad thing about physical character right now, since it's feeling like Hoyoverse has almost completely forgotten about the elements. I don't even know if it's considered a physical element. I don't think so, and also the fact that Hoyoverse didn't kind of have Eula's rerun for such a long time, this also goes to show that they don't really care too much about physical anymore. Now unless they do anything soon with physical, and I do hope that there's some kind of buff towards physical damage and physical character in the future, most of the time now player won't be running physical due to their lack of power. Until now, the cast of character that has good support towards physical isn't even rising as well. They kinda tried to fix it with Mika, but that didn't really work out. And also, physical roster character is very limited right now. Not to mention, the reason why it is very tough to use physical in Abyss nowadays is because there's just so many Ruin Hunter type enemies. And as you've known, these type of enemy has an insanely high physical resistance, even so that many of the buff if you do use Mika on Eula's team, as well as Eula's innate ability to reduce physical resistance, it is still not even enough to deal with these guys. So physical character really is in a tough time. And so from all of our discussion, we now come to the most important point of the video, which is answering the question of whether Eula is still worth it or not. And my straight up answer, guys, is basically if you are someone who loves Eula as a character and you love her playstyle, then yes, just go ahead and pull for Eula, because heck know when she's gonna be back, and she's pretty much gonna be a completely limited character for us to pull at this point. So therefore she's pretty much a preference character, because whenever we're speaking about, you know, meta type of gameplay, Eula's having a very tough time finding her place back in the game, because if we look at her gameplay, basically she focused too much on her burst damage, and it also has the ability to miss. If you're standing a bit too far away from your enemies, it will miss, therefore decreasing your DPS capability a lot. Not to mention you also require to have it doing crit damage, so if your crit rate is a little bit too low and you're missing crit, you are also missing out on a lot. For me personally, I really love Eula as a character. However, in reality, it's been quite some time since I have used her on my team, because again, she is a preference character. But if you do have the ability to pull, guys, her gameplay is pretty nice, and sometimes if you have been feeling bored with, you know, using too much of the character that you've been constantly using, you can just switch out to Eula and have a fresh new gameplay after a while. And so that's all I have to say regarding Eula at this point in time. I really do hope that there's going to be some kind of physical damage buff in the future to help Eula and other physical character out. So leave it down in the comment section guys what you guys think about Eula and physical character as a whole at this point. I would love to hear out what you guys think down below. If you're new to the channel guys, don't forget to subscribe as there will be a lot of new videos coming as patch 3.8 and as well as Fontaine is going to be coming quite soon guys. And also we do have a lot of giveaway on our channel, so that's going to be very beneficial for you as well. Again, I really do appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the video, and with that I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.